Fleet standardization is a topic that splits opinions among fleet managers. Some swear by it, while others raise an eyebrow. Today, we're joining Nathan Schaefer, training specialist from RTA Fleet, for a close look at the ups and downs. But before we get into it, let's first explore what we really mean by fleet standardization.
Hey everybody, it's Nathan from RTA, the Fleet Success Company, and I'm coming to you guys today to talk to you about some pros and cons of fleet standardization. If this is a concept that you guys are considering in your fleets, I want to give you, 5 or 6 pros on the good side of what's great about standardizing your fleet, and I got about 5 cons, right? Just things to consider when you're looking at fleet standardization as something to add to your fleet.
Let's start by looking at the benefits. When your fleet is uniform, you can see real gains in efficiency, cost savings, and safety.
So when we talk about fleet standardization, right, its meaning in its basic sense is the practice of purchasing, operating, and maintaining a uniform set of assets, right? So usually the same make model combinations, same upfits, that kind of thing. Now the pros side of this, right, and there's 5 or 6 of these. The first and the biggest one, in my opinion, lowering maintenance cost. Lowering maintenance cost when you standardize is because we're simplifying maintenance.
With a consistent lineup, your technicians become pros at repairs. This means quicker fixes, less downtime, and ultimately, lower costs.
If we have the same make and model, our technicians become very, very proficient, right? So they're doing those repetitive jobs very, very quickly. So we're saving time, lowering those maintenance costs, and then we have less training time.
Another perk is a simpler parts inventory. Fewer variations mean you need less storage and you cut down on costs.
I'm not training my technicians on multiple different makes and models of assets. I can really focus that training on that one make and model. Number 2, less parts inventory, right? We're lowering that cost because I don't have so much stuff in parts inventory, not only from a cost standpoint, but think about the room it takes to hold all of these different parts from all these multiple makes and models. So smaller parts room, which makes it more efficient to go in and find those parts, but we're also bringing that cost down.
Standardizing your fleet often opens the door to buying in bulk. That can unlock discounts that lower your acquisition costs.
Number 3, bulk purchasing discounts. If I'm buying a lot of the same make and model, typically those dealers, or if we're buying factory direct, they're giving us bulk discounts so we can lower our costs for purchasing.
Using the same model across the board also makes things smoother. With less time needed for training, your drivers get on the road faster and feel more confident.
Okay, number 4, operational efficiency. Less driver training time if we have a standard make and model that they're driving. Okay, so just like with our technicians, we have less time to get those drivers up to speed. They feel more comfortable moving between assets. If their particular asset they normally drive breaks down, it's easier for us to move them into a different asset. Then they become very familiar with daily vehicle inspections. Okay, so they're moving around those, they're getting comfortable with the same make and model.
Another benefit is knowing what your vehicles are worth. A uniform fleet means more predictable resale values, which helps in planning future replacements.
All right, number 5, predictable resale values. If I have the same make and model, I understand what the market need is for those in the secondary market. So I really can get very predictable with those resale values. Helps me, right, calculate total cost of ownership, life cycle cost analysis. I start to know that resale value.
And with every vehicle sporting the same safety features, drivers get familiar quickly. This consistency makes for safer operations every day.
All right, number 6, improve safety. Same make and models, right, have the same uniform safety features, so our drivers are very comfortable with that. If I'm moving between different makes and models and I have different safety features or I don't know how they work, you could create some safety issues there.
But it isn't all smooth sailing. There are a few challenges to keep in mind.
All right, cons. So let's talk about the cons. Now there's a few of these. I still think the pros outweigh it, right? Fleet standardization, I think, is still a very good practice, but there's some things to consider on the con side. So number 1, you lose flexibility. If I only buy a certain make and model, I might lose flexibility from an operational need if there are other assets or makes and models out there that could do something I need, right? So something to consider there. And maybe we're buying one asset that's outside of our standardization, but then we lose standardization, right? So we lose some of that flexibility.
If you rely on just one manufacturer, a hiccup in their supply chain could affect your whole fleet.
Number 2, supply chain disruptions. Okay, those can be huge, and we've all dealt with that through COVID. If I'm on the same make and model, and that supply chain for that make and model is disrupted somehow, it really can have a disastrous effect across the entire fleet. Not just purchasing the asset, but think about parts. If I can't get an oil filter for the make and model that I buy, all of a sudden it takes out my entire fleet. Okay, so definitely supply chain disruptions can have a major impact if it affects your entire fleet, because we're all on one make and model.
Sticking with one brand might mean missing out on a new innovation that other manufacturers offer.
So number 3, technology limitations. If we, just like that improved safety, if we limit ourselves to one make and model, and that manufacturer is down one path of technology, other makes and models in different manufacturers might be just putting out new technologies that we don't have access to because we're on the standardization, right? So something to consider.
Not every driver may be comfortable with a standardized fleet, especially if they're used to a different setup.
Number 4, employee resistance. If we're pulling drivers or operators in from other organizations, they may be used to a different make and model. So they may have some resistance to that standardization or not be used to the things that you're providing for them. Okay, so something to consider.
And finally, too many of the same vehicles at auction can push resale values down.
And then number 5, and the last con I'm going to give you, is resale market saturation. Okay, think about this, and I had experience with this when I was a fleet manager. You have those big operations in your areas or your regions that if you're going to auctions, you're seeing all their stuff there, right? And for us, for me, I used to see this one particular company and they painted their stuff a very particular way. You'd show up and they'd have 50 F-150 sitting there, right? So you get that resale market saturation. Honestly, you lose value. The first 2 or 3, if they're built well, right, have low mileage, they might go for a good amount of money. But by the time you get to the 50th or 60th truck, they're going for pennies on the dollar. And so you're losing some of that value because they're oversaturating that resale market.
So is fleet standardization the right move for you? It really comes down to your fleet's unique needs. While the benefits can mean real savings and smoother operations, it's wise to weigh these against the potential challenges.
All right. So again, just some very basic pros and cons for you guys to think about as you look at fleet standardization and maybe moving into that practice. I will say for me as a fleet manager, doing fleet standardization, even in a city fleet, when I could standardize certain classes of my assets, like building the same make and model police car, we got very proficient with those. And it really did save us a lot of money on maintenance costs, parts inventory, things like that. So I still think that the pros far outweigh the cons, but I wanted you guys to understand and know some of those cons and things to consider if this is something you're looking at. All right, have a great day.
Thanks, Nathan, for walking us through it all today.